good morning once again, my brothers and sisters. Today is a special day. We turn the page into Genesis chapter 43, and we see something in action that I think is really hard for most of us. You know, the Bible tells us not to take revenge. The vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. And yet when we're hurt and when we're even attacked, it's hard not to let that sinful nature rise up inside and say, I'm going to get you back, or I'm going to at least harbor hate in my heart for you forever. I'm never going to talk to you again. I don't trust you anymore. Whatever. We need to look at Joseph today, because in chapter 43, we see something unfolding that's kind of threaded through the narrative, never really stated directly, but so profound in how we need to approach the situations in life where we've been hurt. Let me show you what I mean this morning. As we get to verse 1, we read this: Now the famine was still severe in the land. You remember 42 ended with Jacob saying, I am not sending Benjamin to Egypt. I don't care what official in Egypt asked to see him. Of course, Jacob doesn't know it's Joseph, right, that's asking. Jacob just knows he's already lost Joseph, at least in his mind. That's what he thinks. And so, okay, hey, you guys can't have Benjamin. But God knows how to move the pieces on the board, and the famine is still very intense. And hunger finally overcomes fear, right? The famine was still severe in the land, so what happens? So when they had eaten all the grain they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, Go back and buy us a little more food. We know there's food in Egypt, and what they don't know is God has provided for them in Egypt through their own brother and son, Joseph himself. So Jacob says, we got to go get more food. But Judah says to him, the man warned us solemnly, you will not see my face again unless your brother is with you. Now, let's do a little review. Here's Judah. He pops into the narrative. You remember Judah. He was born to Leah and Jacob in chapter 29. He prevents Joseph's death in chapter 37. Instead of just killing him, he advocates that they put him in that slave train on the way to Egypt. All right. He marries that Canaanite woman, and he has 3 sons in chapter 38. Also in chapter 38, he sleeps with his daughter-in-law Tamar. He thinks she's a prostitute. His hypocrisy is exposed, and Tamar ends up having twins. So now Judah comes back to the narrative for us, and he's saying, we have to take Benjamin with us. If you will send our brother along with us, we will go down and buy food for you. Okay, here's the deal, Dad. We got to take Benjamin, whether you like it or not. But if you will not send him, we will not go down, because the man said to us, you will not see my face again unless your brother is with you. Notice how the narrative flows. How many times do we have to hear this? And how many times do we see Benjamin brought to the front of the story and hinge on the fact that we have to send your most precious gift to Egypt, Jacob, your last son through Rachel, the one, your new favorite now that you think Joseph is dead. You have to be willing to let go. Wow, it's not easy. Notice now he's called Israel. In verse 6, Israel asked, why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man you had another brother? What were you guys thinking? They replied, the man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. Is your father still living? He asked us. Do you have another brother? We simply answered his questions. How were we to know? He would say, bring your brother down here. Joseph, all the while, still hasn't revealed himself. Then Judah said to Israel, his father, send the boy along with me, and we will go at once, so that we and you and our children may live and not die. Look at how God has leveraged Jacob into this decision. Sometimes decisions are hard. We don't want to let go. We have things that are precious to us. Can we really trust that God is working? What about our previous experiences where we suffered because we let go? What should we do? Jacob is going through all these things as he continues to grapple with the fact that his son has to go, his son Benjamin. Judah says, I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him here before you, I will bear the blame before you all my life. Now, hasn't Reuben made this same guarantee? But no, Jacob refused when Reuben guaranteed it. Now we see Judah guaranteeing it, but we also see the level of famine has increased. So that, Jacob is feeling the pressure of hunger on top of the pressure of taking care of his family. All right, so here we go. As it is, if we had not delayed, we could have gone and returned twice. Hey, Dad, if you just get over this and let us take Benjamin, you'd be sitting at your table with a plate full of food right now. Then their father Israel said to them, if it must be, then do this. Jacob, the father, the patriarch, initiates a plan. Put some of the best products of the land in your bags and take them down to the man as a gift. A little balm, a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio nuts and almonds. This is the same strategy he used when meeting Esau. Now he's using it again to send his beloved son Benjamin to Egypt, plus, not to mention all his other surviving sons, right? Jacob says, take double the amount of silver with you, for you must return the silver that was put back into the mouths of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. You remember the fear they experienced in chapter 42 when they were coming back from Egypt and discovered that Joseph or somebody had put their silver, the payment for the food that they had, back into their sacks. So take your brother also and go back to the man at once. Hunger finally drives Jacob to the place where he has to let go. God has him pinned to the mat. He has no other option. God will do that. Pin us to the mat to where circumstantially there's no other choice for us other than making the choice that God eventually will show himself in. We don't see it at the time it's happening, but doesn't mean it's not like that, okay? Verse 14, and may God Almighty grant you mercy before the man so that he will let your brother and Benjamin, remember Simeon's already there in prison, your brother and Benjamin come back with you. As for me, look at this line. Jacob, you're suffering, man. I am bereaved. I'm about to lose my second most precious son, the one I had through Rachel. Not that you guys are guys I don't love, but hey, everybody knows Joseph was my favorite. Everybody knows Benjamin's next in line. I am bereaved. I'm letting go. It's hard. So the men took the gifts and doubled the amount of silver, and Benjamin also. Notice how the text keeps driving us to this. They hurried down to Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, again, is Benjamin in every verse? Look at this. He said to the steward of the house, take these men to my house, slaughter an animal and prepare dinner. They are to eat with me at noon. You remember, Joseph is now second in command over all of Egypt. His power is great. Here is all his brothers. Here they are. He has the power with a word. If he wants to, he can save Benjamin and he can wipe the rest of them out. If his anger and his rage and his, revenge, if that's what his heart dictates to him, he has opportunity right here, right now. What does he do? We're going to have dinner. Where's that hatred in your heart, Joseph? Where's that act of revenge? Well, you know what? All those years in slavery, all those years in prison, all those years separated from his family, God has done a work in Joseph's heart. He's able to say, I can let go of the injury you caused to me. We can be restored. I'm going to offer forgiveness. Wow, that's godly. I want to eat with these guys. The man did as Joseph told him and took the men to Joseph's house. I'm sure that had to be intimidating for the brothers. Now the men were frightened. Well, I guess it was intimidating. Look at this. They're upset. Because why? They're going right into Joseph's house. We're frightened. When they were taken to his house, they thought we were brought here because of the silver that was put back into our sacks the first time. He wants to attack us and overpower us and seize us as slaves and take our donkeys. Well, that would be a lack of trust, wouldn't it? So they went up to Joseph's steward. So let's see if we can figure this out before we fall into this trap. Again, suspicion, paranoia. They went up to Joseph's steward and spoke to him at the entrance to the house. Please, sir, they said, we came down here the first time to buy food. But at the place where we stopped for the night, we opened our sacks, and each of us found his silver, the exact weight in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back with us. We have also brought additional silver with us to buy food. We don't know who put our silver in our sacks. And what does the steward say? It's all right, he said. Don't be afraid. Look at this. Your God, the God of your father. What? We're talking about the God of Israel now. Does this reflect Joseph's evangelism in Egypt? I mean, how does this pagan steward understand the God of their father? Well, obviously, Joseph has demonstrated godly behavior. Joseph has interpreted the dream and credited God's power for that. The steward is watching Joseph in his walk with God. Your God, the God of your father, has given you treasure in your sacks. I received your silver. And then he brought Simeon out to them. Wow, that's quite a statement, isn't it? Hey, I know your God, and you're being blessed by God. That's why your silver was in your sack. The steward took the men into Joseph's house. He gave them water to wash their feet and provided fodder for their donkeys. They prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon, because they had heard that they were to eat there. Oh, maybe he's not going to attack us. Maybe we should calm down a little bit. When Joseph came home, they presented to him the gifts they had brought into his house, and they bowed down before him to the ground. Does that remind you of a dream young Joseph, when he was 17, had? Does that remind you? He had the dream. They resented him for the dream. They sold him into slavery because Dad got him a favorite coat. He didn't get any of them a coat. And Joseph told him, someday you guys are going to bow down to me. That was my dream. Well, here we are. Chapter 43. His brothers again are bowing down, and we are told about it. He asked them how they were. And then he said, how is your aged father? Tell me about Dad. Is he still living? Wow. They replied, your servant, our father, is still alive and well. Wait a minute. And they bowed low to pay him honor. Look what the text keeps giving us. They're bowing. As he looked about and saw his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, he asked, is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about? And he said, God be gracious to you, my son. Joseph cannot contain his emotion as he sees his younger brother there, deeply moved at the sight of his brother. Joseph hurried out and looked for a place to weep. Can you imagine all the times he's asked God to restore his family, all the times he's asked God to deliver him from this separation? How much he's missed his father, how much he's missed his brothers, even though they've done bad things to him. Well, they're finally sitting in front of him, and he's overcome. He went into his private room. Why? Because he needed to cry. He needed to cry. After he had washed his face, he came out, controlling himself. He said, "Serve the food." They served him by himself, the brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians could not eat with Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians. Well, these Egyptians are about to get a big surprise when the hugging starts, but we're going to save that. The men who had been seated before him in the order, the men had been seated before him in the order of their ages, from the firstborn to the youngest. And they looked at each other in astonishment. How does he know who's the oldest and who's next and who's after that? All the way down through 11 brothers, they're lined up perfectly. It's like this guy knows us. What's going on? When portions were served to them from Joseph's table, listen to this. Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as anyone else's. Now Joseph's the one playing favorites, so they feasted and drank freely with him. As you might guess, we're about to experience the unveiling when Joseph lets them know that he is their brother, and they experience the shock and awe of what God's doing. Well, we'll save that for next time. Just see that the godly man forgives. The godly man entrusts his life to God and lets it go. That's a lesson for us, church. I hope you get it. God bless you. Serve him well today.